Good evening and welcome to our sparks of the Parsha, little tidbits on the Parsha. This week we have a double Parsha, which occurs 7 times during the year. Could occur less than 7, but not more than 7, because of the lack of weeks in a year in a lunar calendar. We have about 50, a little more than 50 weeks, but there are 53, 54 Torah portions. So some weeks we have to combine them. Now, when you look through all the 7 different combinations, you notice something very striking, that they're all paradoxes. And I believe that that's by design, because they could have combined any 2 sections together, but all the ones that are combined are paradoxical, because Judaism is all about paradoxes. So let's go through the 7. The one that's going to be the most problematic in supporting this theory is the one that we're going to be studying this week, Acharei and Kedoshim. Let's take the first one, Vayakel, and he gathered the people into a assembly, which represents the collective entity. It's combined with Pekude, which means the accounting, where you focus on details, on individuals. So you have both. Judaism is both communal, collective, national, and it also focuses equally on the individual. The next double portion, which we had last week, was Tazria and Mitzorah. Tazria is conception, life. Mitzorah is the person who has this skin disease, who has to be quarantined and isolated, and the Talmud says that a Mitzorah is, in a sense, like a dead person, dead skin. He's separated from the rest of society, just like a dead person is separated from society. So you have one portion is conception, life. The next portion is Mitzorah, death. The next one is our week. We're going to skip that for a moment. The one after this is Bahar, B'chukosai. Bahar means the mountain, something high up, pride, something that is elevated. The next one is B'chukosai, which has as its root the word etched or engraved, like a ditch, something lower than the earth. So you have the mountain and you have the valley. The next one is Chukas and Balak. Chukas represents the laws in the Torah that are supra-rational, that are beyond our understanding. They're the most openly divine laws. And the next section is Balak, the wicked king who irrationally wanted to destroy the Jewish people. The word Balak comes from a root that means he wanted to lick their blood. A lowly individual is juxtaposed to Chukas, the most sublime laws. The next one is Nitzavim and Vayelech. Matos and Maseh. Matos means staff, something that's hard and rigid. Maseh is journeys. So what does that indicate? Matos is something that is stable, rigid, doesn't bend, doesn't yield. And Maseh is something fluid, constant travel, constant mobility. Similarly, the last one is Nitzavim, which means standing firm. And Vayelech, and he went. And another time we'll talk about the difference between those two, because they seem to have the same theme. Unbending, unyielding, and moving, mobile and flexible, and standing upright and traveling and walking. They both seem to have the same symbolism, but at another time we'll go into it, God willing. But the 7th one is this week's portion, Acharei and Kedoshim. What does Acharei mean? In the aftermath of the death of the 2 sons of Aaron. Why did they die? Because they brought an unauthorized offering. They had this tremendous passion. They could not quench their thirst to get closer to God. And what is Kedoshim? Holy. Aren't these the same thing? Where's the paradox here? So this seems to demolish my theory that it's all about paradoxes, because Acharei seems to be about the unquenchable thirst and passion to leave this world, to be divorced from the world. And Kedoshim we usually translate as holy. What is holy?
Separate.
People who are holy are more spiritual. So it seems that they're both saying the same thing. And the answer is they're not saying the same thing. Because we have to redefine the word holy. Holy implies someone who is more spiritual than others. And what do we mean by when we say spiritual? So if I give you a picture of a person who's meditating all day, praying all day, you'd say that person is spiritual. Someone who is ascetic, doesn't eat, doesn't sleep, doesn't take care of their physical needs, focuses only on the spiritual, that's a holy person. A business person who's involved in making mega deals with the corporations and a corporate lawyer, you'd say that's not a spiritual person, that's not a holy person. Well, Judaism doesn't have that view of holiness. Holiness does not mean spiritual. You could be spiritual and holy, and you could be non-spiritual and holy. Because holy means separate. Something that is apart from other things. So let me give you an example. Someone who's involved in business, deals with mundane activities on a regular basis, but make sure, number one, that every bit of business that they do conforms to the highest ethical and legal standards. Make sure they don't gyp anyone, not even a penny. Make sure that they respect the Shabbos. They don't work on the Shabbos. Make sure that they give a percentage. Jewish law requires giving at least 10% of your net income to charity. And they deal with integrity, and they do everything the way the Torah says we're supposed to conduct ourselves in business. That's a holy person. Why? Because within the business activities, which they share in common with everyone, they're different. They, on a higher level, they are able to be godly even when they are very much involved in the physical world. And this is an important point, that Judaism is not about spirituality, though there's a lot of spirituality in Judaism. It's about God. God is no more spiritual than he is physical, and he's no less physical than he is spiritual. He's neither. He transcends both, but he can be involved in both. So holy is not escaping this world. Holy is engaging this world in a holy manner, in a separate manner, in a different manner. But let's go back to the first Parsha, Acharei. We know that the two sons of Aaron, I think we discussed this a few weeks ago, the two sons of Aaron, on the day that the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the portable sanctuary in the desert was dedicated, they brought an unauthorized offering, and a fire from heaven came and consumed them. So the way we look at that superficially is that they committed a crime, they did something wrong, they were not authorized to bring it, and God smote them. That's a word that only people who read the Bible in English are familiar with. How many times he used the word smiting? But God smote them with a bolt of lightning that killed them. So they did a sin and God punished them. No, that's not what happened. One of the greatest commentators, known as the Or HaChaim, of Chaim ben Attar, who lived about 250 years ago, in his commentary on the Torah says that they were not punished at all. And he focuses on the wording in the beginning of this week's portion where it says, "And God spoke to Moses after the death of Aaron's two sons, when they approached before God and they died." It says, their death was not their punishment, that was part of their sin. In other words, if you can call it a sin. In other words, what they did was to be so passionate about God that they were willing to offer themselves to God with such intense passion that their souls left their bodies. They were prepared for that eventuality. See, when a person is very spiritual, and here I'm using the word spiritual, their soul is on fire, their soul is engaged, the soul wants nothing less than to leave the physical world. That's the nature of the soul. The soul has to be told its mission is to be down here, but if you leave the soul to its own devices, to its own natural disposition, the soul wants to disengage. The soul wants to climb to greater heights. Now, if you don't have the restraint, that you realize that your purpose is not to be away from this world, but in this world, and you're able to excite the soul the way Aaron's two sons were able to, your soul will just automatically leave the body. And there are stories throughout history of people of a very high spiritual caliber who, in the process of deep meditation, were in danger of their souls leaving their bodies. For example, the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, had a mentor, colleague and a mentor whose name was Avraham the Malach, Abraham the angel. He was nicknamed the angel because he was so detached from the physical world. And he was the son of the Alter Rebbe's teacher, the Maggid of Mizrich. And once they were